The single most powerful asset we all have is our mind. If trained well, it can create enormous wealth. Imagine standing at a crossroads. To your left is the familiar path everyone around you seems to follow. Study hard, get good grades, find a safe job, work until you're 65 and maybe retire with enough to survive. To your right, a less crowded road, one filled with uncertainty, risk, self-education, smart investing, and the possibility of true financial freedom. Most people, out of fear or habit, choose the first path. But a few, the ones you admire, the ones you wish you could be like, choose the second. This audiobook is about understanding why and how you can choose differently starting today. Robert Kiyosaki didn't just have one father figure growing up. He had two, one rich, one poor. And what he learned from each shaped not just his bank account, but his entire philosophy on life. One dad would say, "The love of money is the root of all evil." The other would say, "The lack of money is the root of all evil." This is not just a story about money. It's a story about how we think. It's about unlocking the door to true freedom and realizing that the key has been in your hands all along. Welcome to the world of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Two dads, two mindsets. Robert grew up listening to two very different voices about money, life, and success. One was his biological father, his poor dad, a highly educated man, a respected academic who believed firmly in the traditional path. Go to school, get a degree, and work hard for someone else. The other was the father of his best friend, his rich dad, a man with only an 8th grade education but a deep, practical understanding of money and wealth building. Both men were hardworking. Both men were intelligent. Yet only one became financially free. The difference? Mindset. The problem with school is they give you the answers but not the right questions. Robert Kiyosaki. Poor dad valued security. He often said things like, "Go to school so you can find a safe job with good benefits." His life philosophy was rooted in fear. Fear of being unemployed, fear of losing money, fear of instability. Rich Dad, however, valued freedom. He would tell young Robert, "Learn how money works. Let money work for you, not the other way around." He believed in taking calculated risks, making smart investments, and building wealth through ownership. Robert watched the choices each man made over the years. He saw how Poor Dad climbed the ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. He saw Rich Dad build systems, invest in businesses, and create assets that paid him whether he worked or not. Two dads. Two mindsets. Two very different outcomes. You're only poor if you give up. The most important thing is that you did something. Most people only talk and dream of getting rich. You've done something. This contrast made Robert question everything he was being taught. Was getting good grades enough? Was working 40 years for someone else's dream really the answer? The seeds of financial rebellion had been planted, and they were about to grow into something extraordinary. Money works for the rich. Most people wake up, go to work, collect a paycheck, pay their bills, and repeat, hoping for a raise, maybe a promotion, or if they're lucky, a pension someday. That's what Robert's poor dad did. It's what millions of people around the world still do. But Rich Dad taught something radically different. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. This isn't about laziness or greed. It's about leverage. About using your money, time, and brainpower smarter, not harder. Robert realized early that people often confuse being busy with being productive. You can work 60 hours a week and still be broke. Because what truly separates the rich from the rest isn't effort. It's financial intelligence. Rich Dad explained that the key to building wealth lies in understanding the difference between 1. Assets, things that put money into your pocket. 2. Liabilities, things that take money out of your pocket. Seems simple, right? Yet most people are drowning in liabilities they think are assets. Take a house, for example. Most people say, "My home is my greatest asset." But if it's not generating income and is costing you money every month in taxes, insurance, and maintenance, it's a liability. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out. It's that simple. Rich Dad drilled this into Robert's head. Buy assets. Avoid liabilities. Let your assets pay for your lifestyle. This meant real estate that generated rental income. Stocks that paid dividends. Businesses that operated without him needing to be there every day. This was the real secret. The rich don't work harder, they work smarter, and they let their money work the hardest. Why schools don't teach you about money? Robert's poor dad had a PhD. He believed in education and was proud of his academic accomplishments. But as Robert grew older, he began to realize a painful truth. What the school system doesn't teach you about money is costing you a fortune. Schools teach algebra and Shakespeare. They teach you how to pass standardized tests and memorize historical dates. But what they don't teach: how to manage money, how to invest, how to build wealth. Rich Dad believed this wasn't an accident. He said the system was designed to produce employees, not entrepreneurs. It teaches compliance, not creativity. Security, not freedom. They don't teach you how to be rich because the system needs employees and taxpayers, not financially free thinkers. Robert asked himself, why is it that successful business owners and investors often had average grades? Why do the top students often become employees for the ones who took risks and built companies? It wasn't about intelligence. It was about financial education, or the lack of it. Rich Dad taught him the importance of learning what schools don't: how to read financial statements, how to spot investment opportunities, how to understand taxes, debt, cash flow, how to recognize bad financial habits and replace them with wealth-building ones. Most people never escape the rat race because they don't even know they're in one. They work to pay bills, get trapped in debt by liabilities, and never build true wealth. The lack of money is the root of all evil. Rich Dad. Robert realized, if you want to be rich, you can't rely solely on school. You must educate yourself, financially, emotionally, and mentally. Because the moment you understand money, you stop working for it. It starts working for you. Mind your own business. Here's a truth bomb Rich Dad dropped on Robert that most people never hear in their entire lives. Stay at your job, but start minding your own business. Wait, what does that mean? Isn't a job your business? Not quite. Most people spend their entire lives building someone else's dream. They clock in, clock out, collect a paycheck, and never build anything that truly belongs to them. They become highly skilled at working in a business, but never learn how to build one of their own. Rich Dad made it clear, there's nothing wrong with having a job, it can fund your growth. But your real focus should be building assets. Your business, your real estate, your investments, your intellectual property. Even while Robert was working for Xerox, he was investing in small real estate deals. He used his job income to buy assets, and eventually those assets paid him more than the job ever could. That's when he stepped off the hamster wheel and started creating freedom. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability, and buy assets. That's the real hustle. Not just working 9 to 5 and hoping to retire rich, but building your own money machine behind the scenes. Let your side hustle grow into your main hustle. Let your investments buy back your time. Let your knowledge compound into wealth. That's what it means to mind your own business. Because at the end of the day, no one's coming to build your dream for you. You have to own it, grow it, and commit to it like your life depends on it, because your freedom might. The power of financial literacy. This is where Rich Dad dropped the kind of truth they don't put in textbooks. It's not how much money you make. It's how much you keep. That's the foundation of financial literacy, the ability to understand, control, and multiply your money. Here's the thing. Most people focus on earning more. More hours. More overtime. More promotions. But what Rich Dad taught Robert is that income means nothing if you don't know how to manage it. You could win the lottery tomorrow and still end up broke in a few years, and many people do. Why? Because money without financial education is like water in a leaky bucket. So what does financial literacy really mean? It means you understand these 4 things. Accounting, reading numbers like a story of your money. Investing, making your money work for you. Markets, understanding how money moves and where to find opportunities. Law, knowing how taxes and protections can work in your favor. Rich Dad wasn't just talking about spreadsheets and formulas. He was talking about mindset. The ability to think long-term, take calculated risks, and know the difference between good debt and bad debt. Most people fear debt. But Rich Dad used it like a tool. He'd borrow money to buy assets, real estate, businesses, that paid him back and then some. That's financial intelligence. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about knowing how money really works and using that knowledge to escape the paycheck trap. The single most powerful asset we all have is our mind. If it is trained well, it can create enormous wealth. The takeaway? Get smart about money. Track your cash flow. Know what you're spending on and why. Build a financial foundation so strong, you don't panic when storms hit. You profit from them. Work to learn, not just to earn. Most people ask, how much does it pay? Rich Dad asked, what will you learn? Robert Kiyosaki didn't just work for a paycheck, he worked for skills. And that shift changed everything. See, Poor Dad believed in specialization. He thought the key to success was climbing the ladder, staying loyal, and becoming an expert in one field. But Rich Dad believed in diversification of knowledge, learning a wide range of skills to make yourself unstoppable. Don't work for money. Work to learn. Don't be addicted to the paycheck. When Robert worked at Xerox, it wasn't because he wanted to be a salesman forever. It was because he knew sales and public speaking were critical skills, especially if he ever wanted to run a business. He chose jobs based on the skills they would teach him, not the salary they paid him. And that mindset gave him an edge over everyone chasing promotions. He was building a toolbox, one that could create wealth from any opportunity. So what should you be learning? Sales, the ability to influence, persuade, and close deals. Marketing, how to grab attention and turn it into action. Leadership, guiding teams, making decisions, and owning outcomes. Investing, spotting trends and putting money where it multiplies. Communication, writing, speaking, storytelling, the core of influence. It's not about quitting your job tomorrow. It's about working smart, soaking up skills that compound over time. Because when you combine experience with education, you don't just become employable. You become unstoppable. The more specialized you become, the more you are trapped and dependent on that specialty. This is how the wealthy think. They don't fear learning something new. They chase discomfort because they know every new skill is a new form of freedom. Overcoming fear and taking risks. What stops most people from getting rich? Not intelligence, not talent. Fear. Fear of losing money. Fear of looking stupid. Fear of failing. And according to Rich Dad, that fear is exactly what keeps people stuck in the rat race. Working hard, paying bills, living in quiet financial desperation. The primary difference between a rich person and a poor person is how they manage fear. Robert learned early on, the rich feel fear too, they just don't let it control their decisions. Instead of saying, what if I fail? They ask, what will I learn? Let's be real, you will make mistakes. You will lose money sometimes. But that's the tuition you pay for becoming financially free. Poor Dad wanted security. He believed in saving, in playing it safe, in never taking chances. But Rich Dad taught Robert that security is an illusion, because even safe jobs can disappear. True security comes from knowing you can create income anytime, anywhere, with your skills, your knowledge, and your courage. Winners are not afraid of losing. But losers are. Failure is part of the process of success. Fear is natural. What matters is what you do with it. If you avoid risk, you also avoid reward. If you avoid failure, you avoid growth. If you let fear stop you, you'll live your entire life working for someone else's dream, instead of building your own. So how do you overcome it? Start small. Invest a little. Take one step out of your comfort zone. Get educated. Fear shrinks when your knowledge grows. Fail forward. Learn, adapt, repeat. Surround yourself with brave minds. Fear is contagious, but so is courage. Robert faced setbacks. He made bad investments. He even went broke at one point. But he never stopped. Because he knew, every failure makes you smarter. Every risk builds resilience. There is a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary. Poor is eternal. You were not born to play it safe. You were born to think bigger, move bolder, and bet on yourself. Taxes, corporations, and the secrets of the rich. Let's talk about something most schools never teach, but every wealthy person understands. Taxes. And how to legally pay less of them. Wait, what? Yes, and here's the truth. The rich don't play by the same rules. They understand the rules of money, and they use them to their advantage. See, Poor Dad believed in working harder and paying taxes like a good citizen. He thought making more money meant paying more taxes. But Rich Dad taught Robert that the rich own nothing and control everything. They don't earn income the same way employees do. They earn it through corporations, investments, and assets, structures that are built to protect and grow wealth. Here's how the game works. Employees, earn tax, spend what's left. Work harder, pay more taxes. Corporations and investors, earn, spend through business, taxed on what's left. Build assets, let them grow, legally defer or reduce taxes. That's the game. It's not how much money you make. It's how much money you keep. Corporations can deduct expenses like travel, education, meals, cars, and more, all before paying taxes. Meanwhile, most employees get taxed first and spend what's left. Now, this isn't about cheating the system. It's about understanding it and playing it intelligently. So how can you start thinking like the wealthy? Start a side business. Even a small one gives you tax flexibility. Learn the rules of accounting and tax law, hire a pro if needed. Use legal entities to protect your income and assets. Shift from earning income to building assets that work for you. The point isn't to become a tax expert. It's to stop being blind to the system you're already in. Financial education is more powerful than a raise. The government rewards people who create jobs, invest in real estate, and take financial risks, not those who just earn a salary. So if you want to build wealth, stop thinking like a worker. Start thinking like a business owner, investor, and strategist. Because once you see how the game is played, you'll never be controlled by it again. Mindset, money habits, and the power of taking action. So you've made it this far. You understand the basics. Assets over liabilities, financial education, thinking like the rich. But here's the truth. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is. You can read every book on wealth, attend every seminar, and watch every YouTube video. But if you don't act, nothing changes. Rich Dad didn't just give Robert financial advice, he gave him the mindset of a doer. A person who tries, risks, fails, learns, and levels up. Here's what Robert learned. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. Most people wait for the right time, the perfect idea, or until they feel ready. But in the world of wealth, hesitation is the enemy of progress. Instead, develop the habits that fuel success. Pay yourself first. Put money into savings and investments before you pay bills or spend. This builds discipline and prioritizes your future. Track your cash flow. Know where your money comes from and where it goes, always. Spend less on liabilities. Cut back on anything that doesn't make you money. That flashy car? That endless takeout? Ask, is this helping me get free? Feed your mind daily. Podcasts, audiobooks, mentors, real estate meetups. Keep learning. Act on what you learn. Open that investment account. Start that side hustle. Buy that first rental property. Don't wait until you feel expert level. Start as a student, grow as an owner. The most life-destroying word of all is tomorrow. Poor Dad lived for stability. He worked for money his whole life and had little to show for it in the end. Rich Dad lived for opportunity. He built systems, assets, and a legacy, not because he was lucky but because he acted consistently on what others ignored. You don't need to be born into money. You don't need fancy degrees. You need a mindset of responsibility, a habit of action, and the courage to play the wealth game differently. This is your invitation. Not to dream but to do. Not to wish but to build. Not to fear money but to master it. Because when you change your relationship with money, you change your entire life. The Rich Dad philosophy: live free, think bold, leave a legacy. This isn't just a book about money. It's about freedom. It's about choosing a life where you control your time, not your boss. Where your money works for you, not the other way around. Where you live by design, not by default. The rich focus on their asset columns while everyone else focuses on their income statements. Let that sink in. Most people stay stuck because they only think about earning more money. They never ask, is my money buying me freedom? Freedom is when you wake up and do work you love, or none at all. Your investments generate income whether you show up or not. You're not stressed about bills, emergencies, or retirement. You use your time on what matters: family, creativity, health, contribution. And here's the kicker. You don't need to be rich to start thinking rich. Rich Dad wasn't about fancy cars or showing off wealth. He was about mindset, systems, and freedom. Here's the Rich Dad formula in one sentence. Build assets that produce income, protect them legally, and reinvest until your money makes more money than you do. That's the wealth flywheel. And once it spins, you're out of the rat race. Forever. But what about legacy? Rich Dad didn't just teach Robert how to be free. He taught him to teach others, just like this audiobook is teaching you. Because financial freedom means nothing if you're the only one who has it. So what do you leave behind? Teach your kids early, not just about saving but about investing and creating. Talk about money openly, remove the shame, start the conversations. Inspire others by living free, you'll light the path just by walking it. Your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. So ask yourself right now, are you building someone else's dream? Or are you building your own? Are you trading hours for money? Or are you creating something that lasts? Because this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, wasn't written to impress you. It was written to wake you up. To break the cycle of paycheck to paycheck. To open your eyes to financial systems that were always there, you just weren't taught them. But now you see them. And now it's your move. Final thoughts, time to rise. If you've listened this far, then something inside you is hungry. Hungry for more freedom. More control. More confidence with money. Don't ignore that fire. Let this book be your turning point. Start small. Learn fast. Move boldly. Repeat. And always remember, you don't have to be born rich to think rich. You don't have to know everything to get started. And you don't need permission to change your life. This is your next chapter. Make it count. If this audiobook inspired you even a little, do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Someone you know needs this message. And you're just getting started.